So last time I left you with the clue. What do C.S. Lewis and Aristotle have in common? The answer is, as the title suggests, they are both proponents of virtue ethics. Now that is all well and good, but what does it have to do with ponies? Well, more than you might first think. In this video I will describe virtue ethics and natural law, the ethical positions of Aristotle, and argue that they are the ethical positions most prevalent within and espoused by the show. I've already discussed this topic briefly with Whammy, but wanted to make this video to give it the depth it deserves. Whammy is also going to do a post about it on his WordPress at some point, which I'll link in the description when he finishes it. First then is virtue ethics. The distinction between virtue ethics and most other moral systems is that it is agent-focused, meaning it seeks to make the moral agent a good person rather than merely dictate good action to them. To do this, they must cultivate good virtues, and grow into a virtuous person. Aristotle's argument for this, in the Nicomachean Ethics, is the following. States of character evolve out of like habits. This is why the activities we exhibit must be of a certain kind. We learn by doing them, e.g., men become builders by building. So too do we become just by doing just acts, temperate by doing temperate acts, and so on. In other words, Aristotle treats every action done as a learning experience, a chance to better ourselves or make ourselves worse. The way in which you will know a virtuous response in any given situation is by following the law of the golden mean. All virtues, according to Aristotle, fall in the mean between extremes or vices. Courage, for example, is a virtue because it is between the vice of deficiency, cowardice, and that of excess, rashness. Alternatively, one can follow a role model of a virtuous person and learn a particular virtue or virtues from them. This view recognizes that the habit of action dictates the character of the person, and seeks to encourage them to hone their goodness through good actions to the point where they are naturally inclined to do the right thing by habit. It is also tied up with Aristotle's emphasis on telos, most often translated as purpose, in his philosophy. Telos refers to the moral purpose for which all things develop. For example, an acorn's telos is becoming an oak tree. The telos of a person is to flourish by developing their virtues and to achieve eudaimonia, or the good life, described by Aristotle as follows. We regard something as self-sufficient when all by itself it makes life choice-worthy and lacking nothing, and this is what we think eudaimonia does. Essentially then, virtue ethics allows you to live the most worthy moral life possible. By now it should seem clear how similar this view is to the central morality of the show, friendship. Twilight and Celestia never condemn or praise individual actions as moral or immoral, but rather their emphasis, just like Aristotle's, is on the agent themselves.
Dear Princess Celestia, my friend Applejack is the best friend a pony could ever have, and she's always there to help any pony. The only trouble is, when she needs help, she finds it hard to accept it. So while friendship is about giving of ourselves to friends, it's also about accepting what our friends have to offer. Your faithful student, Twilight Sparkle.
The lessons Twilight and her friends learn from their experiences are the focus, as they develop virtues within friendship. The elements of harmony. Each of these elements are the individual virtues which make up the greater virtue of friendship, the telos of pony kind, representing their flourishing as a moral member of society. To demonstrate the connection between the elements and the virtues, we will look at them each in turn, and match them up with examples of virtues that Aristotle gave. First then is laughter, often interpreted as optimism by analysts such as the Voice of Reason. It is synonymous with the Aristotelian virtue of sincerity, since Pinky's optimistic outlook comes from her unflinching sincerity, always expecting the best because she is devoid of cynicism. Applejack is the element of honesty, and lo and behold, truthfulness is a virtue put forth by Aristotle. Having said that, he does group it with sincerity, understandably, but the point nevertheless stands that Applejack's element is a virtue. Rarity's generosity is also a virtue proposed by Aristotle, although he didn't put it quite like that. Fluttershy and kindness are synonymous with Aristotelian virtue, gentleness, since it is meant as the virtuous response to anger, and we have seen multiple examples of Fluttershy's kindness demonstrated through a response to, and overcoming of, anger, including on one occasion, her own. Finally, Rainbow Dash and loyalty, which Aristotle also acknowledges, but not as clearly as the others discussed. See the link in the description if you want more details on this. Now we return to friendship itself, which Aristotle devotes 2 full chapters to in the Nicomachean Ethics. Professor George P. Fletho puts it thus. The precise connection between friendship and virtue remains vague, however, for Aristotle appears to be ambivalent about whether friendship is one of the virtues, or whether it is a universal precondition for good life. The better reading, it seems, is that rooting the personality in a nexus of relationships is the condition for the evolution of a personality towards eudaimonia. In other words, Aristotle agrees with Celestia. Wow, that is a sentence I never thought I'd hear myself say. Regardless, eudaimonia and the flourishing of virtues can only be achieved through friendship, with each of the main 6, except Twilight, representing one of the virtues necessary for Twilight's element. Thus, by surrounding themselves with those who exemplify virtues they must pick up on, bearing in mind Aristotle's ideas on role models, they can develop all the virtues they don't yet have in order to reach eudaimonia by becoming virtuous together. The point at which Twilight ascends, therefore, in Magical Mystery Cure, can be seen as her reaching this point of virtuousness, as this is the point where she fully understands her friends with elements, and thus virtues. With virtue ethics out of the way, it is now time to look at another related moral system of Aristotle's, natural law. Natural here is not meant in the conventional sense, but is rather defined by Aristotle as the natural is that which is everywhere equally valid, just as fire burns here and in Persia. The most widely known and employed natural law system in modern times is that of the Catholic Church, pioneered by Aquinas upon reading Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, and the system is most easily described through him. The system is again founded upon telos, or purpose, only this time the emphasis is on the telos of everything aside from the agent. The groups of telos to be pursued are listed by Aquinas as primary precepts to be done in order to be moral. The he refers to is mankind in general. They are as following. There is first of all an inclination to do good in accordance with that nature he has in common with all substances. Secondly, there is an inclination to things according to that nature which he has in common with animals. Thirdly, there is in man an inclination to do good according to that nature of reason which nature is proper to him. In other words, we share multiple telos with substances and animals, as well as having some unique to us. From these primary principles, secondary principles are found through application of reason, such as from the nature in common with all animals comes protection of offspring, since all animals protect their offspring. And in this way, good action which seeks to facilitate telos in the world is born. The chief focus, then, is aiding the moral purpose of all things, their destiny, if you will. And this is exactly like the society of Equestria, wherein a pony's telos is exhibited by their cutie mark. I have already talked extensively on this subject, so I'll try to keep it brief, but the cutie mark-based society, where everyone is allowed and encouraged to pursue their special talent, is completely in line with Aristotle's telos-based ethics and natural law in general. However, what is often forgotten, and was recently pointed out to me during a lecture in London by Peter Vardy, is that virtue ethics and natural law are part of the same system. Both theories were pioneered in the same book, Nicomachean Ethics, and they complement each other in order to form a complete system. One should use natural law in order to discover good acts, which in turn will reinforce their virtues, which themselves will develop their character enough to aid in their application of natural law, and so on and so forth. Furthermore, while virtue ethics deals with the agent's telos, natural law accounts for the telos of everything else, and the balance produced ensures the telos of existence in general is furthered and the eudaimonia is achieved. In conclusion, Equestria has been shown to be a place in which both virtues and natural law are pursued to the fullest extent, and valued more highly than Aristotle could have ever dreamed. Since Aristotle spoke of eudaimonia requiring a utopia which followed these ethical systems, and pony society exhibits both natural law and virtue ethics simultaneously, it seems safe to say that Equestria fully embraces, understands, and exemplifies Aristotle's system of ethics, and is truly the utopia he envisaged all those years ago. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and maybe learned a little bit to boot. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what I've said. Is this a fair summary of the morality in Equestria, or have I got it completely wrong? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, this is Nightsphere the Gnostic. Goodbye.
Applejack is the element of honesty. Honestly, she would not lie, well, probably. Doesn't like to lose, competitive mare too. Plans to better herself, cause she cares for Apple Bloom. Working all day, not a moment to rest. The last thing she'd say is better than best. She's confident, humble and honestly intense. She'll tell you this isn't it, not just yet. Big Mac is buffer than most pups. In fact, is battered with mares hoping for more. He lifts barrels and wears weighted apparel. It's apparent he wants to protect them and properly handle it. Nothing new with the habit to work hard was difficult at first, but past the first part, taking care of the family and over her farm is the main responsibility in his heart.